subscribe. Do-do-do.
Hello Mellow Fellows, it's Tara here, and today we are going to explore one of my favorite side characters on Bob's Burgers, Zeke. Zeke is Jimmy Jr.'s best and most loyal friend. You will hardly ever see Zeke without him. They have a really deep admiration for each other and it's actually pretty adorable. Zeke is very protective over his friends and is almost always willing to help, whether it's to be a bouncer, to annoy a shop owner, or to find hidden treasure, or find a two-butted goat, or even scam an arcade by cheating. Zeke is always down to help. Zeke is one of the strongest wrestlers at Wagstaff, and he tends to roughhouse with Jimmy Jr. whenever he is in the mood. It's pretty clear that Zeke has an impulse problem and has trouble controlling himself. His punishments are mostly detention or spending time with the Thinktionaires, but he has been threatened with expulsion one time, and his father even threatened to send him to a behavioral school. Zeke is not exactly the brightest kid, however, he does have a natural talent for cooking. And according to Bob, he seems to have a perfect palate, which is impressive considering Bob is a professional cook and owns his own restaurant, even if it isn't doing as well all the time. Zeke also has a natural talent for sports announcement. He does sports announcements for the school, and he's also done it on the side for the new Cathalon. Zeke just has a natural talent for making everything exciting and fun to listen to, so sports announcing is a possible good career for him in the future, as well as being a chef. Another little quick fun fact is that Zeke is 4'7" and his middle name is Anthony. As of right now, he doesn't have an official last name, despite him being on most of the seasons of Bob's Burgers. Zeke's first appearance was on Season 2, Episode 1, titled The Belchies, where he joined the Belcher children to search for Taffy's treasure. Throughout the series, you'll notice that he is kind of close with the Belcher kids. He especially has a very soft spot for Gene Belcher. And to be honest, Gene is probably his favorite person right after Jimmy Jr. Zeke is really protective over Gene and gets upset if Gene is hurt or upset about something. Zeke almost seems like a big brother to Gene. Jimmy Jr. was even jealous of their relationship in the two-butted goat episode. So that kind of shows how close Gene and Zeke are. They just naturally get along really well together. Whereas Jimmy Jr. and Zeke kind of follow each other around and is more of a hype man than brothers. Also has a friendship with Miss Schnorr, which I think is actually pretty funny. Zeke may get in trouble a lot, but he is well liked and well respected among his peers. He is genuinely a good kid at heart. He's even oddly good with kids, as seen in the episode Fish Called Tina, where he had to be a big fish. He had two children wanting him to be his big fish. Of course, that made Tina mad, but it kind of shows that children are naturally attracted to a rambunctious big brother like Zeke. He was such a fun mentor, and yeah, Kaylee and Rudy kind of loved him. Now, even though he has a lot of good friends at Wagstaff, his home life is less than ideal. You see, Zeke tells pieces of his story throughout the series, and when you put it all together, it paints kind of an odd, sad picture of what his home life is. So let's kind of break down what I gathered about his home life from around the 10 seasons he's been on. One positive role model he has in his life is his grandma, but unfortunately she's in a nursing home and really can't do much to be a part of his life. But he still makes time to go visit her and make her happy, as seen when he tried to wear a mascot to make her happy before she went to surgery. Zeke has openly stated that he moves around a lot. He also has a southern accent, hinting that he's probably spent the majority of his time moving around, particularly in the south. And it seems that eventually they moved to the East Coast sometime later in his life. If you don't know, it's theorized that Bob's Burgers takes place in the East Coast, specifically New Jersey, which would explain Linda's family's collective accents. So if that's true, Zeke has traveled through a lot of states in his 13 years of living, which can cause a child to feel constantly uprooted from their environment if they're always moving around. But that's only the beginning of what I've kind of found out about Zeke's life. Zeke is a child of divorce. He said he was in diapers when he went to divorce court with his parents. He even mentioned that they would fight over him, which wasn't exactly a peaceful way to live. Zeke's dad throughout the series is rarely seen in general, but it's unclear if the woman we saw him with in season 2 episode 1 was Zeke's mother or Zeke's stepmother, Cheryl. Zeke lives with his dad, and since they move around a lot, it's possible that his birth mom lives in a completely different state than he is in right now. In fact, Zeke hasn't really mentioned anything about his mother throughout all the seasons he's been on, which makes me think that she is possibly absent from his life completely. All we know about his birth mother is that she was pregnant with Zeke during her prom. And since Zeke is 13 years old, that would make her about 30 years old right now. Now keep up with me because this is about to get a little crazy, so just keep up. The craziest part is that he has a 44-year-old brother. So I figured that's more than likely his half-brother from his father's side, since his mother is only in her 30s at most. Which opens up to a kind of darker reality to the situation and deeper implications of his mother and father's relationship. Either his dad's first child is adopted or his dad had his first child at a young age. And I pray it's a late adoption situation where he adopted an adult, because the alternative is that his father is kind of a groomer. Because if that 44-year-old man is Zeke's biological brother, then his father is in his 60s currently, if he was in a teen pregnancy situation with his first son too. And if Zeke's mom is currently in her 30s, means that she was about 17 years old dating a man and eventually marrying a man who is around in his 40s. I assume the marriage was short-lived because she was a fucking child dating a 40-year-old man, and a shotgun marriage in the South is not exactly unheard of. With that context, it makes sense why things didn't exactly work out. It also makes sense why his father has custody, because when they divorced, Zeke was in his diapers, which would make her about 19 to 21 years old. She probably had no way of supporting Zeke financially on her own, and she was also very young and not established yet. Meanwhile, Zeke's dad probably had a lot of his life together since he was literally middle-aged, heading into a midlife crisis head-on. So either the court gave him full custody or she withdrew and gave his father full custody of Zeke until she gets her life together. Either way, it's a very messy and an uncomfortable situation to figure out, honestly. So maybe it is better that they divorced. The saddest part is that he missed out on having his mother in his life. Now, of course, all of that was just speculation and a theory, and according to my personal math, that's the theory I came up with. It's completely possible that the writers forgot half of the stuff they wrote, and it's completely possible that the 44-year-old brother was a throwaway line that they kind of wrote in for funsies. Maybe they forgot that adding a 44-year-old brother would raise some red flags about the age gap between his biological parents, since, he was pregnant with Zeke at prom and he's only 13 years old. So major red flags about this other brother situation. And it's not like Bob's Burgers is known for its continuity, but people like me exist, and I like to exploit forgotten details of a series to make fun theories like that. Why be logical when you can just be exploitative? So I'm just gonna go with it because that is more fun for this video than to just be like, oh, the writers forgot that they added certain things. No, that's what happened. Zeke has a 44-year-old brother. His mom's only 30 and gave up custody of him because she was young at divorce court, and dad got custody, is now moving around a lot, and now married to another woman named Cheryl. But this unstable home could explain why he's always in trouble and why he always have these impulsive needs to do things. When a child comes from an unstable home, well, they have problems staying out of trouble in the real world. Maybe it's the reason that Mr. Fawn kind of go easy on Zeke whenever he gets in trouble. Thankfully, Zeke is probably done moving for a while. I say that because his dad seems to own a business in town. You can actually see him heading to the protests for the rent hike with the other tenants. Hopefully this means that Zeke can finally settle down roots somewhere. His dad hasn't specifically said what his business was. Actually, his dad hasn't even had any lines in the series at all. But I do wonder what his dad does for a living. If he owns a business, I just wonder what type of business it is. What would you think that Zeke's dad does in town? And like I said, judging from Zeke's house, he's not exactly rich, so it doesn't seem like the business is that great. But let's theorize what his dad does probably down below in the comments. Now, on a lighter note, Zeke isn't completely momless. His dad had a girlfriend named Cheryl, who his dad eventually married off camera. Or maybe I should say off screen, but either way, they got married outside of the show. I think the best part is that Zeke seems to really like her. He's bonded with her so much, he even shouted her out during his Mother's Day performance at the Mother's Day and Primary Caregivers Appreciation Cabaret. I mean, Cheryl even lets him curse a little bit, which is pretty funny. The last thing I found about Cheryl is that she has a newborn with his father currently, which means Zeke has 2 siblings now that has a huge age gap with him. A 44-year-old brother and a literal 0 to 1-year-old little brother, which means he's 13 years older than his little brother and 31 years younger than his oldest brother. Thankfully, Zeke also has some extended family as well. He has his cousin Leslie, who likes to rhyme, and an aunt who smells like coconuts. And like I said earlier, he has a grandma who he looks and sounds exactly alike, and he seems to really love her a lot. Sadly, his grandfather passed away from a stroke, and he seems to remember him fondly, so I assume they had a good relationship with each other. Now that we've explored his school life and his home life, what is there to talk about? You know, why is this video so long if that's all we have to talk about? We talked about his crazy family, we talked about his trouble in school, but he has friends. What else could there be to talk about? You know, like what are you gonna say here? Well, I saved my favorite topic for last. Of course, I am going to talk about his unrequited love for Tina. I love talking about this subject because it's so subtle throughout the series, but it's so consistent. And it's easy to miss if you haven't been paying attention, but since I watched the show religiously over and over because it's one of my favorite shows, it is really easy to spot. Once you pay attention to what he's actually saying when he's around Tina, it kind of becomes clear that he has a little bit of a crush on her. Honestly, I believe that Zeke is a better match for Tina than Jimmy Jr. I know some diehard Jimmy Jr. ex-Tina fans is going to roll their eyes, but like, no, I truly believe that he is a better match than Jimmy Jr. is with Tina. One, Zeke already has a better relationship with Tina's family than Jimmy Jr. Like I said earlier, Zeke is close with Jean, and he's always helping Louise with her schemes and in her plans. Usually when she's doing something, she does get Zeke involved in it, and he's right there ready to help her. And he's never really done anything to personally offend Louise, so she's always kind of in good terms with him too. And of course, Zeke was Bob's favorite student in home ec. Now, he hasn't had much personal experience with Linda, but she seems to like him. Yes, his cooking skills could really come in handy when the kids join and or take over the family business. And like I said earlier, he's good with kids, and I just feel like he would be a good family man in general. Once he matures, obviously, and stops being so impulsive, I'm pretty sure that once he's a full-grown adult, he's going to be like a good person. Plus, he's a feminist that runs a women's empowerment club at school. It's great considering the Belcher women tend to kind of run the family. Tina herself tends to be a very girl power type of woman, so she's going to need a guy who kind of believes in the same. A guy who kind of hypes up women instead of tearing them down, kind of like Jimmy Jr., who is a player. On the other hand, Jimmy Jr. doesn't have a good rep with Tina's family, like at all. Linda has stated multiple times on several occasions that she believes Tina can do much more better than Jimmy Jr. And it's rare that Linda doesn't like someone. She generally is a very friendly and open person to all kinds of people, so it's kind of telling that she's not very fond of Jimmy Jr., probably because he's constantly stringing along her daughter, so in her eyes she just sees him as kind of a nuisance. Bob isn't really a fan of Jimmy Jr. either. He hasn't been too vocal about it, but he has said that he believes that Jimmy Jr. just leads her on. And he even advised for Tina to go with Josh instead to the dance because Josh was genuinely excited to go with Tina and only asked Tina versus Jimmy Jr., who kind of gave her a maybe until he found out she was going with Josh. I don't know, I'm still mad that he ruined that whole thing with Josh because Josh and Tina was such a really cute couple, and I kind of wish that they worked it out. And Jean and Louise doesn't exactly care for him either. They rarely have anything good to say about him, and they hardly interact with him at all. The only times they interact with him is because Tina goes and initiates some conversation with him and they're like right next to her. But in general, if they're on their own, they try to avoid kind of Jimmy Presto a little bit. My point is they're never really openly trying to go talk to and be friends with Jimmy Jr. They do kind of see him as a nuisance also. It's the fact that he keeps stringing her along, and whenever she gets any type of new boyfriend, he pops up again like a cockroach. I'm sorry. It gets annoying. So I believe his wishy-washy behavior gives him a bad rep with Tina's family, and they all tend to not really like Jimmy Jr. Whereas Zeke, I think they're going to be a lot more accepting of him and a lot more excited to have him in the family. Now, before anybody says I don't like Jimmy Jr., I personally do like Jimmy Jr. I find him very funny, and honestly, he's not really a bad person. He's just a bit of a inconsistent jerk when it comes to dating, and not just with Tina. He has been pretty jerkish with a lot of the girls that he's kind of been with or talked to. So it's not really that I hate Jimmy Jr. I just don't think that he's boyfriend material. Cue bringing on quote. It's that, and I don't think that Jimmy Jr. and Tina has much in common, and he's not really interested in Tina until he realizes that other boys are willing to date her. And you can see this with almost every other guy she was dating in the series. After she kind of broke it off with him, Jimmy Jr. was right there trying to catch the tail end of that breakup because he didn't like that she was dating someone. He gets jealous when Tina dates another boy, but he doesn't exactly want to date her either. So it's kind of like that person who they only want you when they're gone. Our good sis Tina deserves way better than that. Now, I believe that her and Jimmy Jr. would be good friends, but as a couple, no. I'm rooted for Josh or Zeke or that guy in the tapes because that Spanish lover was taking her to the park and he was teaching her how to cook. I mean, he did more for her than Jimmy Jr. in his imaginary fake world. Now let's go back to Zeke and Tina. Actually likes to call her T-Bird, and he's kind of hinted at his secret crush for a while now. Now, first, he's always pretty nice to her, even if the group is making fun of her. Of course, he gives his opinion, but he doesn't try to embarrass her like Tammy or even Jimmy Jr. has done. In fact, Zeke tends to compliment her at times, even if he's just giving her kind of subtle advice. He's never really malicious or mean about it. But then again, of course, he would laugh when Jimmy Jr. would openly make fun of Tina. Basically, when everyone else is making fun of Tina, he kind of just hangs back. He makes little comments, he may laugh, but in general, he doesn't really engage with the bullying. And like I say, he tends to compliment her at times or even give her a little bit of advice to kind of help her out a little bit. For example, when she was in her kind of gothic witch outfit for that one episode, Jimmy hardly seemed to care. However, Zeke went out of his way to tell her that he was into her choker look. When Tina was tagging the town with Ghost Boy, Zeke stated that he liked that she was dangerous. Or more specifically, he said he liked that she has the dangerous side and a safe side. Where Jimmy was just kind of annoyed that she hung out and kissed. Would we call that a kiss, Ghost Boy? Jimmy Jr. was just more jealous about her spending time with another boy. And earlier in the episode, he did tell her, get some spice in you, girl. And when he found out she did have some spice, he was like, respect. When Tina was falsely accused of being the mad pooper, Zeke was going to poop in front of the whole school assembly to prove Tina's innocence. Of course, he did start becoming the mad pooper for fun, but once Tina started to report about it, he kept doing it to help her news segment. The mad pooper story was Tina's only shot into becoming a news anchor, so he kept doing it for her for a while. Honestly, it was pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet that he would keep pooping around the school so that she'll have a story to report on. Yeah, it was gross. It was gross, but it was pretty sweet too. It's like, okay, all right. Cute, but nasty, Of course, he knew pooping in front of the assembly would get him caught and in trouble, but he would rather get in trouble than let Tina take the blame for his mistakes. For his accidents, for his poop, I don't know. He just didn't want her to get in trouble, so he was kind of just doing it in front of everybody so that they would know that she was innocent. His kind of sacrificing nature isn't really surprising considering he falsely confessed to unraveling Mr. Franz's dolls in order to save the water park trip for everybody else. He's really a kind-hearted kid that would sacrifice himself for the sake of his friends or, his secret kind of love for Tina. Tina. My favorite example is during the fish shoulder games. When asked what he would plan for a date with Tina, he had like a whole date kind of pre-planned in his head. He planned the tacos and then a touch tank at the aquarium. And if you remember, Tina is like the only person in town who loves the touch tank. So the fact that he knew that and remembered that was really cute, because honestly, you wouldn't take anybody to that touch tank. That touch tank is like a ghost town. So the only person who actually goes there is Tina. So the fact that he wanted to take her for tacos and the touch tank, it actually shows that there was a lot of thought put into where he would actually take her. It was cute. It was adorable. And his reaction to Jimmy Jr. saying that he would take Tina to the drugstore had me screaming. He like rolled his eyes and scoffed. I genuinely believe that he was annoyed by that answer. He even said to Jimmy Jr.'s face that Jimmy Jr. takes Tina for granted. And even if they were being threatened by a water balloon, I do believe Zeke actually meant this, and he was using it as an opportunity to kind of get his feelings out there. He was making it clear that he is the better option, you know, he could take her to better dates. It's like he was making it clear. I mean, we all remember that Zeke even claims that he's going to marry her one day. When Tina protected him from Mr. Fron, he told Tina that he plans to win her over one day, even if she doesn't think so. Of course, Jimmy wasn't around when he said that, which again makes me believe that there was truth to this. He and Tina already kissed twice in the series. One was Spin the Bottle, and it happened at the end credits, so not everyone got to see it, but if you stayed like a little extra longer, you can see that they actually kissed. And the other time they kissed happened during the Apocalypse episode, the fake apocalypse, where she kissed Jimmy Jr., but then she bumped into Zeke and she said screw it and kissed Zeke, which to me shows that she has some inkling of feelings towards Zeke. The only thing that she said is, oh, he's not very bright, but she never really says that she doesn't really like him. Now, she has called him gross on a couple occasions, and she hasn't really shown much interest in Zeke, but I do think there's like some type of small feeling. But anyway, the second time they kissed was when she thought the world was ending and she kissed Jimmy, and then afterwards she kissed Zeke. They both seem surprised, but Zeke seemed happy afterward, claiming he can't wait for the next apocalypse. You get it? Apocalypse. When Jimmy Jr. kind of asked what he meant, he kind of just distracted him with wrestling and kind of ignored the question. So basically, he didn't even tell Jimmy Jr. that him and Tina kissed, and he was keeping it a secret from him because he knew that if Jimmy Jr. found out, he would be upset, because Jimmy Jr. tends to get jealous whenever Tina is even remotely interested in another boy. So why doesn't he just go for it? Why keep his crush a secret? It's because of Jimmy Jr. Zeke is too loyal to his best friend to pursue his feelings at the moment. Like I said in the beginning, they are incredibly close. Even though Jimmy Jr. is very inconsistent, it's clear that Jimmy Jr. has feelings for Tina. And I'm going to kind of save my thoughts on Jimmy Jr. and his relationship with Tina for a different video. But either way, Zeke just doesn't want to risk his relationship with Jimmy for pursuing Tina. At least not yet. Considering Jimmy Jr. doesn't like any boy he goes after Tina, I'm pretty sure he's not going to like his best friend trying to pursue his on again, off again kind of love interest. And of course, it's not up to Jimmy Jr. to decide who Tina dates, but I'm pretty sure that he would get annoyed with his best friend even going after her. In fact, Zeke dating her might drive Jimmy especially crazy since they're really close. He looks up to Zeke so much, so I'm pretty sure him dating Tina would be an extra shot to his ego. And of course, to Jimmy, it would be kind of a breach of trust. I don't know, it'll probably just hurt his feelings a lot. And of course, it would break his trust as well. And Zeke would rather suffer in silence than to hurt Jimmy. He's very supportive of Jimmy Jr. and encourages him in any way he can, and encourages him in anything that he tries to do. From magic to dancing to TV shows, he supports Jimmy Jr. all the way. Zeke is a very good friend, so that's exactly why he tries to hide his feelings, out of the sake of being a loyal friend. Plus, at the moment, Tina isn't very fond of Zeke at the moment. At least not right now. So maybe Zeke is also waiting for the right time when he feels like he has more of a chance with her. Either way, I hope in the future that we get more Zeke and Tina content. I would like to see it explored more in the future seasons. Zeke has a tough exterior but has an incredibly soft heart. He is a unique character with a unique perspective on life. Odd, fun, and even troubling at times. His home life may not be great. He may have to hide his feelings for Tina, Tina, but he still finds a way to enjoy his life. Zeke is a strong person both physically and emotionally, and I didn't really expect to love him as much as I already do, but I do. His character is a lot deeper than you would expect it to be. And through all the small hints, I was able to uncover Zeke's story, hidden in plain sight. And I would hope that this video opened people's eyes to just how great this character truly is. Zeke is warm, funny, loyal, and a great person and friend despite his circumstances in life. Zeke deserves a lot more credit than he's given. He is a great character, and honestly, I think that the best parts about him are always hidden in such plain sight that if you look a little more closely, you get to understand exactly who he is and why he does what he does. And that is a mark of a great character that's written especially well. I love Zeke, and I hope that all of you who watched this video like him just a little bit more than you did, or love him as much as I do. And he's not a main character, but I do believe that he adds so much more to the show just for him being him. And that's all for today. If you want to see a specific character analysis, just comment below. Thank you, and stay trippy, my hippies. Bye!